Hi, I understand some of you have never written a term paper proposal before and may be a little unsure about what I mean by term paper proposal. So I've created this little video overview to try and help clearly explain everything that I'm looking for in the proposal. So in this video, I'm going to go over the requirements. In the proposal, you need to identify your topic, explain why the topic is important, identify the research question, identify the methodology, construct a working thesis. It needs to be in MLA format, Times New Roman 12-point font with 1-inch margins. This is a 2-page essay. So it's not a formal essay, but it needs to be an essay format. Within it, you need to cite 3 academic sources and provide a works cited page. Now I will go into each of these in more detail. Identifying the topic. So you get to select your own topic, and then you need to start focusing the topic. If you want to hear more about selecting the topic and focusing the topic with examples, you can watch the term paper video itself, where it goes into detail about how to select the topic and start to focus the topic. So here's an example. Your proposal could start: in 2012, voter turnout in California hit an all-time low, with only 23% of registered voters turning out to vote in the presidential primary. This paper looks to the 2014 primary to test if this drop in turnout persists. So I've identified sort of the background of the topic and the focus of this topic. Next, you need to explain why the topic is important. So continuing with that example, you could say something like, the integrity of a democratic system relies upon the concept of popular sovereignty. In California, citizens uphold this duty during elections, through which the public expresses their power by electing representatives to represent their interests in government. If the majority of the population is not voting, the integrity of elections and the representativeness of those elected deteriorates. So do you see how I've sort of fleshed this topic out a little bit more? I've clearly told you what the topic is and what the focus is, and now I'm telling you why it's an important topic. Next, you want to identify the research question. What is it about that topic specifically that you want to learn more about? Here are a couple examples. Has voter turnout in California continued to decline during the 2014 presidential primary? Or you could say something like, compared to the 2012 presidential primary in California, has the 2014 presidential primary experienced a continuing decline in voter turnout? Do you see how the questions are very clear and narrow and focused? Next, you want to identify the methodology. How are you going to go about answering the question? In this example, you may use a longitudinal analysis by looking and comparing turnout over a period of election cycles. You could also use exploratory research. You could look at all this information and sort of try and identify trends in voter turnout. Then you want to construct a working thesis statement. Now this is a working thesis statement, because I expect that at this point it's sort of just a assumption. You're assuming what you might find after you conduct the research. So here's an example. Voter turnout in California during presidential primaries has continued to decline. Do you see how it's very specific? So again, working thesis, right? I expect that your thesis may possibly change as you conduct the research. That's why at this point during the proposal, it is just a working thesis statement. In addition, it needs to be properly aligned with the research question. Do you see how this example thesis statement is a direct answer to the prior research question? If you asked a question about apples, let's say, are apples red? And then your thesis statement is, apples bloom in February. Do you see how they're not aligned? They have to be properly aligned. Why is the apple red? The apple is red because of the blank, blank, blank. Now, where do you find academic sources? As I noted earlier, you must cite 3 academic sources. Oftentimes today, where's the first place we go? Oh, to the internet, right? Nope, don't do it. Do not go to Google, do not go to Bing, do not go to Yahoo, don't go to NBC, CBN, CSS, Fox, none of those stations. Do not go to blogs, do not go to YouTube. Don't just start Googling stuff. You will find non-academic sources. You need to find academic sources for this paper. You're conducting research. First, use the textbook. Make sure to cite the textbook. If the textbook is very helpful for your paper, that means you are on the right track. Next, go to the library database. Go on to the college website, go into the library, and search the database. You can search EBSCOhost, JSTOR, or LexisNexis. I highly suggest JSTOR. It's a very useful database. Make sure, however, that you're only searching for peer-reviewed journal articles. Sometimes when you search those databases, it will give you newspaper articles. That is not what we want. We do not want periodicals. You want peer-reviewed journal articles. And finally, you can actually go to the library itself and search the stacks. Oftentimes when you put in key terms into the library stacks search, it will give you a location. You can go then look in the stacks where that location is, and you can often find a lot of books around the book that you found that are on very similar topics, if not the same exact topic. So make sure that you don't just go to the internet and start Googling stuff. You want to use the resources that the school provides for you. Use the textbook as well. Lastly, formatting. You need to write an MLA format. If you don't know what that is, look at the page, the term paper page, and you will find a link to MLA format guidelines. You need to use Times New Roman, 12-point font, 1-inch margins. There is no title page, no abstract. Do not use bullet points, please. Here is an example of a way you may structure the proposal. You may have an introductory paragraph where you identify the topic, tell me why it's important, the research question, the methodology, and the thesis statement. Then in the body, the next few paragraphs, you may synthesize your first scholarly article, then maybe the second scholarly article, or a third scholarly article. And then lastly, you put together a little conclusion where you summarize what you've found so far and restate the thesis. Citations. You need to provide a works cited page. The works cited page is not part of the 2-page requirement. Make sure to cite everything in the body of the text that is presented in the works cited. If I look at the works cited page, everything that's written there should also be used in the body of the work. Make sure you cite all sources.